3 disturbing, true police horror stories. I've always believed that the scariest stories aren't the ones with monsters or ghosts. They're the ones that happen under fluorescent lights, on quiet roads, inside places we're supposed to feel safe. Tonight, I'm going to share 3 disturbing police stories. These were sent in by officers and family members who claim every detail is true. I've changed names for privacy, but everything else is exactly how it was described to me. Story 1. Daniel had been a patrol officer in a small Midwestern town for just under 3 years when this happened. He told me most nights were predictable. Traffic stops, noise complaints, the occasional domestic call. Nothing that really stuck with him. But one call did. It was late October, around 1:40 in the morning. Dispatch received a 911 hang-up from a farmhouse about 20 minutes outside of town. No history of prior calls from the address. When dispatch tried to call back, it went straight to voicemail. Daniel and his partner Chris were the closest unit. The drive out there was long and empty. No street lights, just narrow roads cutting through fields. Daniel said the radio was unusually quiet that night, like even dispatch didn't want to break the silence. When they pulled up, the farmhouse looked abandoned. No lights on, no cars in the driveway. The porch light was shattered, hanging by its wires. Daniel knocked first. No answer. He knocked again, louder. That's when he noticed the front door wasn't fully closed. It was cracked open just enough to see darkness inside. They announced themselves and stepped in. The smell hit them immediately. Not something obvious like a body, just dampness, like wet wood and something metallic underneath it. The living room was empty, except for a couch tipped on its side. A lamp lay smashed on the floor. There were faint drag marks in the dust leading down the hallway. Daniel said the house was so quiet he could hear his own breathing echoing in his ears. They cleared the kitchen. Empty. Bathroom. Empty. Then they reached the last door at the end of the hall. It was slightly open. Chris pushed it the rest of the way. The bedroom looked normal at first. Bed made, curtains drawn, a phone sitting neatly on the nightstand. But the closet door was closed. Daniel doesn't know why, but he felt a wave of dread when he looked at it, like every instinct was telling him not to open it. Chris opened it anyway. Inside was a man standing perfectly upright. Not hanging, not collapsed, just standing. His wrists were zip-tied together in front of him. His mouth was duct-taped shut. His eyes were wide open, and he was dead. Daniel said what disturbed him most wasn't the body. It was the fact that the man had clearly been placed there, positioned there, like someone wanted him to be found that way. But that wasn't the worst part. When forensics checked the phone on the nightstand, they found the last outgoing call had been made at 1:38 a.m. to 911. And the call duration was 11 seconds. The audio recording revealed nothing but breathing. Slow, controlled breathing, and in the final second before the line disconnected, a whisper. Very calm, very close to the phone, it said, "You're too late." To this day, the case was never solved. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints that didn't belong to the victim, no neighbors who saw anything. Daniel transferred departments the following year. He told me he can still see that closet every time he closes his eyes. Story 2. Marissa wasn't a patrol officer. She worked as a dispatcher for a large city department. She said most nights blended together, but one shift in particular still keeps her awake. It started around 3:12 in the morning. A woman called 911 whispering. Marissa asked what the emergency was. The woman said, barely audible, "He's in the house." Marissa asked who. There was a pause. Then the woman said, "I don't know." Marissa began the standard procedure. Address verification. "Is he armed? Where are you hiding?" The woman said she was locked in her bathroom. She could hear footsteps in the hallway. Marissa asked if she could see the intruder. The woman said no, but she could see the shadow under the bathroom door. Marissa kept her calm while officers were dispatched. Then something changed. The woman suddenly stopped whispering. There was silence on the line. Marissa asked if she was still there. A few seconds passed. Then the woman spoke again, but her voice was different. It sounded steady. She said, "He's not in the house." Marissa felt a chill. She asked what she meant. The woman replied, "He's in the room with me." And then the line went dead. Officers arrived in under 4 minutes. They found the house locked and no signs of forced entry. The bathroom door was open. The woman was inside. Alone, she was sitting against the tub, phone in her lap. She had died from a single stab wound. The coroner estimated time of death at least 15 minutes before the 911 call was placed. Security footage from a neighbor's house showed no one entering or leaving. Marissa requested the audio file the next day. She listened to it alone in her apartment. She said something about it didn't make sense. The breathing at the beginning of the call, it didn't sound panicked. It sounded measured. And when the voice said, "He's in the room with me," Marissa swears she could hear a second faint exhale layered beneath it, almost synchronized. Marissa eventually left the department. She told me she doesn't answer unknown numbers anymore. Story 3. Officer Luis Ramirez had been with the force for over a decade. He thought he had seen everything. One winter night, around 11 p.m., he responded to a report of a child wandering alone near the highway. When he arrived, he saw a little boy standing on the shoulder of the road. No jacket, just pajamas. It was below freezing. Luis approached slowly, trying not to scare him. The boy didn't look afraid. He just stared straight ahead at the dark stretch of woods across the highway. Luis asked his name. No response. He asked where his parents were. The boy slowly raised his arm and pointed toward the trees. Luis felt uneasy, but he radioed for backup and carefully led the boy to his cruiser to warm up. As they waited, Luis tried again. "Are your parents in the woods?" The boy nodded. Backup arrived, and they decided to do a quick search along the tree line in case someone was injured. They left the boy in the cruiser with the heat running. About 20 yards into the woods, Luis found footprints in the snow. Small ones, leading deeper in, but there were no adult footprints, no tire tracks, no signs of struggle, just the child's tracks. He followed them for nearly 50 yards until they abruptly stopped. Not faded, not turned around, stopped. Like whoever made them had simply vanished. Luis felt his stomach drop. He radioed back to the cruiser to check on the boy. No answer. He and the other officer ran back. The cruiser door was open. The back seat was empty. There were no footprints leading away from the car, just the ones Luis had made earlier. The dashcam footage was reviewed. It showed the boy sitting perfectly still in the back seat for about 3 minutes after they walked away. Then, without opening the door, without any visible movement, he was just gone. The department searched the area for days. No missing children were reported matching his description. No bodies found. Nothing. Luis retired 2 years later. He told me he still drives that stretch of highway sometimes. He's never seen the boy again. But every winter, when the first snow falls, he checks the edge of the woods, just in case there are footprints. Those were 3 disturbing police stories sent in by people who insist they're true. Whether you believe them or not, I'll let you decide. But sometimes the scariest part isn't what officers find, it's what they can't explain. And the fact that even the people trained to face danger sometimes go home afraid.